She was 3 seconds from walking out the door when she heard him say it. I will never love again. Ikiko pum outdarsin 4 words, spoken like a law, like the kind of truth that doesn't bend, doesn't soften, doesn't give. Mara Ellison stood frozen in the hallway outside the study. Her breath caught somewhere between her ribs and her throat, and felt the floor tilt beneath her feet. She hadn't meant to eavesdrop. She hadn't meant to care. But now she knew. And knowing changed everything. If you're watching this from London, Sao Paulo, Tokyo, or a tiny town nobody's heard of, drop a comment. Tell me where you are. I want to know how far this story travels. Hit that like button. Stick around. Because what happens next, it's going to hurt before it heals. Mara arrived at Black Ridge Estate on a Tuesday in a carriage that smelled like damp wool and regret. The Highlands were unforgiving that time of year. November had already stripped the trees bare, and the wind off the moors didn't just blow, it cut. She pulled her cloak tighter and stared out at the landscape rolling past. Gray stone, gray sky, gray everything. It suited her just fine. She didn't want color anymore. The estate appeared suddenly, rising out of the fog like something from a ghost story. Black Ridge wasn't beautiful. It was old, built from dark stone that had weathered centuries of rain and wind and probably blood. Knowing the history of places like this. Towers at odd angles, windows too narrow. The kind of house that didn't invite you in, it tolerated you. Mara stepped down from the carriage, her boots sinking into the gravel drive. The air tasted like smoke and approaching snow. A housekeeper met her at the door. Mrs. Calloway. Older, sharp-eyed, the kind of woman who knew how to measure you in 3 seconds and decide if you were worth the trouble. Miss Ellison? Yes. You're younger than I expected. Mara didn't flinch. She'd heard worse. I'm 24. Mrs. Calloway turned and walked inside without waiting. Follow me. The interior of Black Ridge was exactly what Mara expected. Dark wood, high ceilings, portraits of stern-faced ancestors who looked like they'd died angry. The kind of wealth that didn't show off. It just was. Cold. Permanent. Indifferent. They walked through hallways lit by oil lamps, past closed doors and silence so thick it felt like a presence. You'll be attending to Lady Hale, Mrs. Calloway said, without looking back. She's confined to her rooms most days. Arthritis. She needs company more than care, if you understand me. I do. Good. The master doesn't like fuss. Keep things quiet. Don't ask questions you don't need answers to. Mara almost smiled. She was good at that. They stopped outside a door on the second floor. Mrs. Calloway knocked once, then opened it. The room inside was warmer than the rest of the house. A fire crackled in the hearth. Heavy curtains blocked out most of the gray daylight. And in a high-backed chair near the fire sat Lady Cassandra Hale. She was old, 70, maybe older, but her eyes were sharp. She looked at Mara the way a hawk looks at a mouse. So, Lady Hale said, you're the girl. Yes, ma'am. They said you came with a recommendation from the Ashford house. I did. Why'd you leave? Mara hesitated, not because she didn't have an answer, because she had too many, and none of them were safe. I wanted a quieter position, she said finally. Lady Hale's mouth twitched, not quite a smile. Liar. Mara's stomach tightened, but she kept her face blank. I don't care, Lady Hale continued. Everyone who ends up here is running from something. You'll fit right in. Mrs. Calloway cleared her throat. I'll leave you to it then. She left. The door clicked shut. Mara stood there, unsure. Lady Hale gestured to the chair across from her. Sit. Mara sat. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The fire popped. Outside, the wind rattled the window. You're not what I expected either, Lady Hale said. What did you expect? Someone older, plainer, less? She waved a hand vaguely. You'll be trouble. I won't be. Not intentionally, maybe. Lady Hale leaned back in her chair, studying her. But you've got that look, the kind that makes men stupid. Mara's jaw tightened. I'm not here for that. Good, because my son isn't interested. Son. Mara hadn't asked about the household yet, hadn't wanted to, but now the word hung there, and she couldn't ignore it. Rowan, Lady Hale said, like she'd read Mara's mind. He's the master of the estate now. Has been for 3 years. I see. No, you don't. Lady Hale's voice sharpened. And you won't. He doesn't speak to anyone unless he has to. Keeps to himself. Runs the estate. Manages the land. And that's it. Don't expect warmth. Don't expect conversation. And for the love of all that's holy, don't expect him to notice you. Mara felt something cold settle in her chest. I don't need him to notice me. Good. She didn't see Rowan Hale for 3 days. Mara settled into a routine quickly. Wake before dawn. Dress in the plain gray dresses Mrs. Calloway had left for her. Attend to Lady Hale. Read to her. Play cards. Listen to her talk about the estate's history. The people who used to live here. The way things were before the wars came and took everything. Lady Hale wasn't unkind. Just blunt. She spoke like someone who'd stopped caring what people thought decades ago. Mara liked that. At night, she returned to her own room, a small, cold space at the end of the east wing, and sat by the window watching the moors stretch out into darkness. She didn't think about London, didn't think about the life she'd left behind, didn't think about him. She was good at not thinking. But on the 4th night, everything changed. It was late, past midnight. Mara couldn't sleep. The wind was too loud, the room too cold, and her mind, despite her best efforts, wouldn't stop circling back to things she'd buried. She wrapped a shawl around her shoulders and slipped out into the hallway. Blackridge was different at night, quieter somehow, like the house itself was holding its breath. Mara walked without direction, her feet carrying her through corridors she barely knew. She passed the library, the drawing room, the voices. She stopped. Ahead, at the end of the hall, light spilled out from beneath a door. The study, she thought. She'd seen Mrs. Calloway go in there once or twice. She should have turned around, should have gone back to her room, but she didn't. Mara moved closer, her footsteps silent on the old carpet. She stopped just outside the door, her pulse picking up. Inside, 2 men were talking. You can't keep doing this, Rowan. The voice was unfamiliar, older, firm. I'm not doing anything. That voice was deeper, rougher, like gravel and smoke. You're hiding. I'm managing the estate. You're burying yourself in work so you don't have to feel anything. Silence. Then, quieter. What's the point of feeling? The point, the older man said, is that you're alive. You survived. Eleanor wouldn't have wanted... Don't. The word came out sharp. Final. Don't tell me what she would have wanted. More silence. Mara's breath caught. Then the older man sighed. You're 32 years old. You can't spend the rest of your life like this. Watch me. Rowan, I will never love again. Mara's hand flew to her mouth. 4 words, spoken like a vow. I buried that part of myself with her, Rowan continued, his voice steady, cold. I'm done. I'll run the estate. I'll take care of my mother. I'll do what's expected. But I will not open myself up to that kind of pain again. Ever. The older man didn't argue. Maybe he knew it wouldn't matter. Mara stood there, frozen, her heart pounding so hard she thought they might hear it through the door. Then footsteps. She turned and ran. She made it back to her room just in time, closed the door, pressed her back against it, and slid to the floor, her breath coming in short, shallow gasps. I will never love again. She didn't know why it hit her so hard. She didn't know Rowan Hale, had never even seen him. He was nothing to her. But those words, they felt like a mirror. Mara saw him for the first time the next morning. She was crossing the main hall carrying a stack of books Lady Hale had requested when the front door opened. Cold air rushed in, and with it, a man. He was tall, broad-shouldered, dark hair, longer than was fashionable, tied back loosely. His coat was damp from the mist outside, his boots muddy. But it was his face that stopped her. Not because he was handsome, though he was, in a harsh, unpolished way. Because he looked tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. He glanced at her, just once. His eyes were gray, empty. Then he looked away and kept walking. Mara stood there, clutching the books, her pulse racing. That was him, Rowan Hale, the man who would never love again. She told herself it didn't matter. She told herself she was here to work, to survive, to disappear into the background and let the winter pass. But over the next 2 weeks, She couldn't stop noticing him. He was always moving, always working. She'd see him in the morning, heading out to inspect the land. In the afternoon, talking to the steward. At night, locked in his study with paperwork. He never smiled, never lingered, never looked at her twice. And Mara, despite everything, found herself watching. Not because she wanted anything from him, because she recognized something. He was surviving the same way she was, by feeling nothing. Lady Hale noticed. "You've seen him, haven't you?" Mara looked up from the book she was reading aloud. "Who?" "Don't play coy. Rowan." Mara hesitated. "Yes." "What do you think?" "I don't." Lady Hale laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. "You're a terrible liar." "I'm not lying." "Then you're lying to yourself." Lady Hale leaned forward slightly. "Let me save you some trouble, girl. My son is broken. He lost his wife 4 years ago. Cholera. She was young, kind, everything he wasn't. And when she died, he died with her. What's left is just," she gestured vaguely, "a shell." Mara's throat tightened. "I'm not telling you this to be cruel." Mara's throat. Lady Hale continued. "I'm telling you so you don't waste your time hoping for something that isn't there." Mara nodded slowly. "I understand." "Do you?" "Yes." But she didn't, not really, because later that night, when she passed the study again and saw the light still burning beneath the door, she stopped, and she listened. And she heard him. Not talking this time, just breathing. Heavy, uneven, like someone trying not to break. Mara pressed her hand against the wall and closed her eyes. She knew that sound. She'd made it herself. Dant. The next day she made a decision. If Rowan Hale could bury himself alive, so could she. She would stop watching, stop listening, stop caring. She would do her job, keep her head down, survive the winter. And when spring came, she'd leave. Simple, clean, safe. But Blackridge had other plans. Because 2 nights later, at dinner, a formal affair Mara was required to attend as Lady Hale's companion, everything changed. The dining room was cold despite the fire. The table was too long, the chairs too far apart. Lady Hale sat at one end, Rowan at the other, and Mara sat in the middle, feeling like an intruder. They ate in silence. Mara kept her eyes on her plate. Then Lady Hale spoke. "Rowan, this is Miss Ellison, my new companion." He didn't look up. "I know. She's been here 2 weeks. You haven't said a word to her." "I have nothing to say." Mara's fingers tightened around her fork. Lady Hale sighed. "You could at least pretend to be civil." "I'm civil. You're cold." "Same thing." Mara bit the inside of her cheek to keep from reacting. Lady Hale looked at her. "I apologize for my son. He's forgotten how to be human." "That's enough," Rowan said quietly. "Is it?" "Yes." Silence fell again. Mara forced herself to eat, to breathe, to pretend she wasn't there, and then, without thinking, she spoke. "It's fine." Both of them looked at her. Mara swallowed. "I'm not here to be entertained. I'm here to work. If he doesn't want to talk to me, that's his business." Lady Hale raised an eyebrow. Rowan stared at her for a long moment. Then he stood. "Excuse me." And he left. Lady Hale waited until the door closed before she started laughing. "Well," she said, "that's the most I've heard from him in months." Mara didn't laugh. She just sat there, her heart pounding, and wondered what the hell she'd just done. Boy, she didn't see him again for days. And she told herself that was good. She told herself she didn't care. But late at night, when the house was quiet and the wind howled outside, she'd lie awake and think about the way he'd looked at her, like he was trying to figure out if she was real, or if she was just another ghost. But winter tightened its grip, snow began to fall, and Mara Ellison learned what it meant to survive in a house full of people who were already dead. But she didn't know, not yet, that survival wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. The snow came hard after that dinner. Within a week, Blackridge was buried. Drifts piled against the windows. The roads became impassable. The world outside shrank to nothing but white and wind and cold that seeped through every crack in the stone. Mara stopped counting days. She woke. She dressed. She attended Lady Hale. She read. She listened. She existed in the narrow space between useful and invisible, and she avoided Rowan Hale like her life depended on it. Because maybe it did. She'd made a mistake at that dinner, spoken when she should have stayed silent, drew attention when she'd promised herself she wouldn't. And now, every time she passed him in the hallway, which wasn't often, but often enough, she felt his eyes on her for just a second too long, like he was trying to solve a problem he didn't want. So she made herself smaller, quieter. She stopped lingering in doorways, stopped walking the halls at night. When Lady Hale asked her to fetch something from the library or the drawing room, Mara checked first, listened for footsteps, voices, any sign of him, before she moved. It was exhausting, but it worked. For a while. Then the guests arrived. Mara was in Lady Hale's room, reading from a book of poetry neither of them particularly liked, when Mrs. Calloway appeared in the doorway. "They're here." Lady Hale looked up sharply. "Already?" The roads were barely passable, but they made it. Of course they did. Lady Hale's mouth pressed into a thin line. She glanced at Mara. "Close the book." Mara obeyed. "Who's here?" she asked quietly. "The Sterlings," Lady Hale said, like the name tasted bad. "Nathaniel and his sister Vivian. Old family friends. Or what passes for friends when you're this isolated." Mrs. Calloway cleared her throat. "The master is with them now. He asked that you join them for tea." "Did he?" "Yes, ma'am." Lady Hale sighed. "Fine. Help me up." Mara moved to assist her, but Lady Hale waved her off. "Not you. Mrs. Calloway will do it. You need to change." Mara blinked. "Change? You can't meet the Sterlings looking like that." Lady Hale gestured at Mara's plain gray dress. "Go. There's something in the wardrobe in the blue room. It'll fit well enough." "I don't understand. I'm just a companion, yes. But you're also the only other woman in this house besides me, and I'll be damned if I let Vivian Sterling think we're running a charity." Lady Hale's voice softened just slightly. "Go, quickly." Mara didn't argue. She went. The blue room was 2 doors down from her own. She'd never been inside. It was larger than hers, better furnished, though it had the same cold, unused feel as the rest of Blackridge. The wardrobe stood against the far wall. Mara opened it and found 3 dresses hanging inside, all of them finer than anything she'd worn in months. Dark green, deep blue, charcoal gray with embroidery along the collar. She chose the blue. It fit almost perfectly. Too perfectly. Like it had been made for someone her size. Someone who used to live here. Mara's stomach turned. She didn't let herself think about it. Just laced the dress, pinned her hair into something more presentable, and left the room before the walls could close in. When she arrived downstairs, voices were already spilling out of the drawing room. Laughter, light, easy. Mara paused outside the door, her hand on the frame. Then she stepped inside. The room was warmer than usual. A fire roared in the hearth. Lamps had been lit. And seated near the windows were 2 people Mara had never seen before. Nathaniel Sterling was tall, blonde, expensively dressed. He had the kind of face that was used to being looked at, sharp jawline, easy smile, confidence that didn't need to announce itself. His sister Vivience was beautiful in a way that made Mara feel plain just standing in the same room. Dark hair, pale skin, a dress that probably cost more than Mara made in a year. She sat with her legs crossed, one hand resting delicately on the arm of her chair, like she was posing for a portrait. And across from them, stiff and silent, was Rowan. He looked miserable. Lady Hale was already seated, a teacup in her hand. She glanced at Mara and nodded toward an empty chair near the fire. Mara crossed the room and sat. Nathaniel noticed her immediately. "Well," he said, his smile widening. "Who's this?" "Miss Ellison," Lady Hale said. "My companion." "Companion." Nathaniel's eyes lingered on Mara just a beat too long. "How fortunate." Mara kept her face blank. Vivian looked her over once, dismissed her, and turned back to Rowan. "You really should visit us more often, Rowan. Blackridge is so isolated. It's not healthy." "I'm fine," Rowan said. "You don't look fine." "Vivian, I'm just saying." She leaned forward slightly, her voice dropping into something softer. "You can't hide out here forever." Rowan's jaw tightened. Nathaniel cleared his throat. What my sister means is that we miss you. It's been too long since you've come down to the city. There are people asking after you. I'm sure there are. Important people. I don't care. Nathaniel laughed like Rowan had told a joke. Still the same stubborn bastard. Rowan didn't smile. Mara watched the exchange, her hands folded in her lap, her pulse ticking faster than it should. There was something off about this. The way Vivian looked at Rowan. The way Nathaniel filled the silence with charm that didn't quite land. The way Rowan sat there like a man enduring a sentence. Lady Hale caught Mara's eye and gave her the faintest shake of her head. Don't! Mara understood. Stay quiet. Stay still. Don't draw attention. But then Vivian turned to her. So, Miss Ellison. Her smile was polite, empty. How long have you been at Blackridge? A few weeks. And before that? London. Oh? Vivian's eyebrows lifted. Doing what? Mara hesitated. I was employed by a family in Kensington. Which family? The Ashfords. Vivian's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. I see. And why did you leave? Mara's throat tightened. I wanted a quieter position. How convenient. The words hung in the air. Nathaniel laughed, breaking the tension. Vivian, leave the poor girl alone. Not everyone enjoys the chaos of the city like you do. Vivian smiled. Of course. But her eyes stayed on Mara. And Mara knew, without a doubt, that Vivian Sterling had just decided she was a threat. Tea continued. Conversation swirled around her, talk of estates, investments, people Mara didn't know and didn't care about. She sipped her tea, nodded when appropriate, said nothing. Rowan said even less. He sat there like a statue, his eyes fixed on some point past the window, his hands resting on the arms of his chair. Every few minutes, Vivian would try to pull him back in. Do you remember the winter we spent at Ashford Hall, Rowan, you and Eleanor? His expression didn't change. No. You must. We went ice skating on the pond. Eleanor fell and you... I said no. Vivian's smile faltered. Nathaniel jumped in smoothly. Mother's been asking about you. She'd love to see you at the estate for the holidays. I'm not going anywhere. Rowan, Nathaniel. Rowan's voice was quiet. Final. Drop it. Silence fell. Lady Hale set down her teacup. I think that's enough for today. Miss Ellison, would you help me upstairs? Mara stood immediately. Of course. She crossed to Lady Hale, offered her arm, and together they left the room. Behind them, Vivian's voice drifted out, sweet and sharp. He's gotten worse. Mara didn't look back. Once they were in the hallway, Lady Hale stopped. Close the door. Mara did. Lady Hale exhaled slowly. That woman is a viper. Mara didn't disagree. She's been circling Rowan for years, Lady Hale continued. Ever since Eleanor died, she thinks if she's patient enough, persistent enough, he'll finally see her as something other than a nuisance. Will he? No. Lady Hale's voice was hard. He can barely stand to be in the same room with her, but she doesn't care. She'll keep coming back until she gets what she wants, or until someone stops her. Mara frowned. Why does she want him? Lady Hale looked at her like she was stupid. Because he's a lord. Because he owns one of the largest estates in the Highlands. Because marrying him would mean power, security, status. Take your pick. He'll never agree to it. Domer? Sul lor miez. No, he won't. Lady Hale paused. But that doesn't mean she won't try. They stood there in the dim hallway, the firelight from the drawing room flickering beneath the door. Then Lady Hale said, Be careful, girl. Mara looked at her. Of what? Of getting caught in the middle of something you don't understand. I'm not... You are. Lady Hale's gaze was sharp. Whether you mean to be or not. Mara didn't know what to say to that, so she said nothing, and Lady Hale walked away. The Sterlings stayed for 3 days. 3 days of forced dinners, stilted conversations, and Vivian Sterling making it very clear that Mara did not belong. She never said it outright. She was too smart for that. But the little comments piled up. Miss Ellison, you must tell me, what did you do in London? I'm so curious. That dress suits you. Is it borrowed? Rowan, do you remember when we used to host proper dinners here, before everything became so Rustic? Mara took it all, smiled when expected, stayed silent when not. But inside, something was building. Rowan noticed. On the second night after dinner, he found her in the library. Mara was reshelving a book when she heard footsteps behind her. She turned. He stood in the doorway, his coat still on, snow dusting his shoulders. "You're avoiding me," he said. Mara's heart kicked. "No, you are. I'm doing my job." "By hiding?" She bristled. "I'm not hiding." "Then what are you doing?" Mara set the book down carefully. "Trying not to make things worse." "Worse how?" She didn't answer. Rowan stepped into the room, closer. "What did Vivian say to you?" "Nothing." She didn't say anything. Mara's voice came out sharper than she meant. She didn't have to. Rowan stopped, stared at her, then quietly. "I didn't invite them here." "I know." "They showed up, and I couldn't—" He broke off, jaw tight. "I can't tell them to leave." "Why not?" "Because it's complicated. Everything with people like that is complicated." His eyes narrowed. "People like what?" Mara regretted the words immediately, but she didn't take them back. "People who think they own the world," she said, "who think everything, everyone, is theirs for the taking." Rowan was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "You're not wrong." Mara blinked. "Vivian wants something I can't give her," he continued, "and she's too stubborn to accept that. So she keeps coming back, keeps pushing, and I keep letting her because it's easier than fighting. That's a terrible reason. I know. So stop. It's not that simple." "It is." Mara crossed her arms. "Tell her no. Tell her to leave. Tell her you're not interested and you never will be." Rowan's expression shifted, something almost like amusement. "You make it sound easy." "It is easy. You're just a coward." The words came out before she could stop them. Rowan stared at her. Mara's stomach dropped. "I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did." Silence. Then Rowan laughed. It was a short, rough sound. Not quite humor, but not anger either. "You're right," he said. Mara didn't know what to say to that. Rowan looked at her for a long moment. Then he turned and walked out. And Mara stood there, her heart racing, wondering what the hell had just happened. The Sterlings left the next morning. Vivian kissed Lady Hale's cheek, smiled at Mara like she was furniture, and took Rowan's hand. "Don't be a stranger," she said softly. Rowan pulled his hand back. "Safe travels." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Then they were gone. The house felt lighter immediately. But Mara didn't relax. Because that night, when she passed the study, the door was open. And Rowan was inside, standing by the window, staring out at the snow. She should have kept walking, but she didn't. "Are you all right?" she asked. He didn't turn. "Why wouldn't I be?" "Because you just spent 3 days being hunted." That got a reaction. He glanced at her, one eyebrow raised. "Hunted?" "By Vivian. She's harmless. She's persistent." "Same thing." Mara stepped into the room. "You don't believe that?" "No," Rowan admitted. "I don't." He turned back to the window. Mara hesitated. Then she crossed the room and stood beside him. Outside, the snow fell in thick, silent sheets. "I heard you," she said quietly. Rowan went still. "What?" "That night, weeks ago, outside this room." Mara kept her eyes on the window. "You said you'd never love again." The silence that followed was suffocating. Then Rowan said, "You were eavesdropping." "I didn't mean to, but you did." "Yes." He turned to look at her. "Why are you telling me this?" Mara didn't know. She should have kept it to herself, should have buried it along with everything else she'd learned to swallow. But she was tired, tired of pretending, tired of watching him pretend. "Because," she said slowly, "I made a decision that night." "What decision?" "To feel nothing." She met his eyes. "To survive this winter without wanting anything, without letting anything in. Because wanting things, caring about things, only makes it hurt worse when they're taken away." Rowan stared at her. "And it worked," Mara continued, "for a while. But then you started noticing. And I started noticing you noticing. And now I don't know how to stop." Stop what? Caring. The word hung between them. Rowan's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes shifted. You shouldn't, he said quietly. I know. I meant what I said. I'm not. He stopped, exhaled. I can't give you what you're looking for. I'm not looking for anything. Yes, you are. Mara's chest tightened. You don't know me. I know enough. You don't know anything. Then tell me. The challenge was there, sharp, real. Mara opened her mouth, then closed it. Because telling him meant exposing herself, meant admitting why she'd left London, why she'd run, why she'd ended up here, in this frozen house, with a man who'd already decided he was finished, and she wasn't ready for that. So instead she said, it doesn't matter. Rowan's jaw tightened. Fine. Fine. They stood there, 2 feet apart, the air between them crackling with something neither of them wanted to name. Then Mara turned and walked out. And this time, Rowan didn't stop her. The days after that were worse, because now the distance wasn't accidental. It was deliberate. Mara went back to avoiding him, and Rowan, stubborn, cold, impossible, avoided her right back. They passed each other in hallways without speaking, ate meals in silence, existed in the same house like ghosts. Lady Hale noticed. What happened? She asked one afternoon. Nothing. Liar. Mara didn't argue. He's more miserable than usual, Lady Hale continued, and you look like you haven't slept in days. I'm fine. You're both idiots. Mara almost laughed. Almost. But then Lady Hale said, you know what the problem is? What? You're both trying so hard not to feel anything that you've forgotten how. Mara looked at her. And what's the solution? Lady Hale smiled. Stop trying. That night, Mara couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the conversation in the study over and over. I can't give you what you're looking for. She wasn't looking for anything. Was she? At some point past midnight, she gave up. She pulled on her shawl and slipped out into the hallway. The house was dark, quiet. She walked without thinking, her feet carrying her through the familiar corridors. And then she stopped, because there, at the end of the hall, light spilled out from beneath the study door. Again. Mara stood there, her heart pounding. She should go back, she should leave him alone. But instead, she walked forward, and this time she didn't stop outside the door. She knocked. Silence. Then, come in. Mara pushed the door open. Rowan sat behind his desk, papers spread out in front of him, a glass of whiskey in his hand. He looked up, and for a moment neither of them spoke. Then Mara said, I lied. Rowan set down the glass. About what? I'm looking for something. His expression didn't change. What? Mara stepped into the room, closed the door behind her. I don't know yet, she said quietly, but I know I can't keep pretending I don't want it. Rowan stood slowly. Mara, you were wrong, she interrupted. That night, when you said you'd never love again. His face went hard. I wasn't wrong. You were. She moved closer. Because you're already changing. I see it, even if you don't. You're seeing what you want to see. No. Her voice was steady now. Sure, I'm seeing what's there. Rowan stared at her. Then he said, This is a mistake. Probably. You should leave. I know. But she didn't move, and neither did he. The fire crackled behind them. The snow tapped against the window. And in that cold, silent room, something broke. Rowan crossed the space between them in 2 steps, his hand catching her face, his mouth crashing into hers. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't careful. It was desperate, angry, real. Mara kissed him back, her fingers tangling in his hair, her heart slamming against her ribs. And for the first time in months, maybe years, she felt something other than empty. When they finally pulled apart, both of them breathing hard, Rowan rested his forehead against hers. This doesn't change anything, he said. Mara's eyes stung. I know. I know. He pulled back, looked at her, and Mara saw it. The fear, the doubt, the wall he'd built around himself starting to crack. Go, he said quietly. Mara's throat tightened. Rowan, please. So she did. She turned and walked out, And when the door closed behind her, she pressed her back against it and slid to the floor. Because she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life. And she didn't regret it at all. She didn't sleep that night. Didn't even try. Mara sat on the floor of her room, her back against the door, replaying every second of what had just happened. The way his hand had felt against her face. The way he'd kissed her like he was drowning, and she was air. The way he'd looked at her afterward, like he'd just committed a crime he couldn't take back. This doesn't change anything. But it did. It changed everything. Because now she knew what it felt like. And knowing meant she couldn't unknow, couldn't bury it, couldn't pretend it hadn't happened. When dawn finally came, pale and cold through the window, Mara forced herself to stand, to dress, to move. She went downstairs like always, attended Lady Hale like always, read from the same book they'd been working through for weeks. But her hands shook. Lady Hale noticed immediately. What happened? Mara didn't look up from the page. Nothing. You're lying. I'm not. Mara. The name, said like that, soft and certain, broke something. Mara closed the book. I made a mistake. Lady Hale set down her teacup. What kind of mistake? Mara hesitated. Then, I kissed him. Silence. Lady Hale didn't look surprised, didn't look angry. She just sat there, her sharp eyes fixed on Mara, waiting. He kissed you back, I assume, she said finally. Yes. And then what? He told me to leave. Did you? Yes. Lady Hale nodded slowly. Good. Mara blinked. Good? You did what he asked. That takes discipline. Lady Hale leaned back in her chair. Now, what are you going to do? I don't know. Yes, you do. Mara's chest tightened. I can't stay here. Why not? Because it's impossible now. Nothing's impossible, just difficult. Lady Hale's voice sharpened. You think you're the first woman to want something she's not supposed to have? You think he's the first man to be terrified of what he feels? It's not about being terrified. It's exactly about that. Lady Hale cut her off. He's scared. You're scared. And you're both running in opposite directions, hoping the other one doesn't notice. Mara didn't argue, because she was right. So stop running, Lady Hale said, or leave. But don't sit here and pretend you don't have a choice. Mara looked at her. What if I make the wrong one? Then you make the wrong one. But at least you made it. The words settled over Mara like weight. She stood. I need to think. No, Lady Hale said. You need to act. Thinking is what got you into this mess. Mara didn't respond. She just left. She didn't see Rowan all day. He was out on the estate somewhere. Mrs. Calloway said something about the north pastures, a broken fence, problems with the livestock. But Mara barely heard her. She spent the afternoon in the library, staring at books she didn't read, trying to figure out what the hell she was supposed to do. Leave. That was the smart choice. Pack her things. Wait for the roads to clear. Find another position somewhere far away where she wouldn't have to think about him. But the thought of leaving made her chest ache in a way she didn't want to examine. So she sat there and did nothing. It was nearly evening when the door opened. Mara looked up. Rowan stood in the doorway, snow still clinging to his coat, his face unreadable. We need to talk, he said. Mara's pulse spiked. About what? Don't. His voice was quiet, rough. Don't pretend you don't know. She closed the book in her lap. Fine, talk. Rowan stepped inside, closed the door. Then he just stood there. Mara waited. Finally he said, I shouldn't have kissed you. The words hit harder than they should have. I know, Mara said. It was a mistake. You already said that. I'm saying it again. Mara's jaw tightened. So what do you want me to do? Apologize? Pretend it didn't happen? I want you to understand that it can't happen again. Why not? Because I'm not. He broke off, exhaled sharply. I can't give you what you want. I never asked you for anything. You didn't have to. Mara stood. You don't know what I want. Yes, I do. Rowan's eyes locked on hers. You want someone who isn't broken. Someone who can give you a life that isn't this. He gestured vaguely at the room, the house, everything. And I'm not that person. You think I don't know that? Then why are you still here? The question hung between them. Mara didn't have an answer, or maybe she did, and she just didn't want to say it. I'm here, she said slowly, because I don't have anywhere else to go. Rowan flinched. That's not... Mara stopped, started again. I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did. Rowan. It's fine. His voice was flat now, empty. You're right. You're here because you have to be, not because you want to be. I understand that. That's not what I said. It's what you meant. Mara's frustration boiled over. Stop putting words in my mouth. Then say what you actually mean. Fine. She crossed the room, closing the distance between them. I'm here because I'm tired of running. I'm tired of pretending I don't care about things. I'm tired of surviving instead of living. And yes, I'm here because I don't have anywhere else to go. But I'm also here because I want to be. Rowan stared at her. I kissed you last night, Mara continued, her voice shaking now. Not because I thought it would fix anything. Not because I thought you'd suddenly become someone different. I kissed you because I wanted to. Because for the first time in years, I felt something other than empty. And if that makes me stupid or desperate or foolish, then fine. I'm all of those things. But I'm not a liar. I'm sick. Silence. Rowan's jaw worked, his hands clenched at his sides. Then he said, You deserve better than this. Maybe. Mara's throat tightened. But I'm not asking for better. I'm asking for real. This isn't real. Yes, it is. Mara, stop. She stepped closer. Stop telling me what I want. Stop telling me what I deserve. Stop deciding for me. Rowan looked at her like she'd just hit him. Then quietly, I don't know how to do this. Do what? Feel something without destroying it. The honesty in his voice broke her. Mara reached out, her hand catching his. Then don't destroy it. Rowan looked down at their hands. It's not that simple. It is? She squeezed his fingers. You just have to try. For a moment she thought he might pull away, but he didn't. He just stood there, his hand warm in hers, his breathing uneven. Then he said, If this goes wrong, it will. He blinked. What? It'll go wrong, Mara said. At some point, because nothing is perfect. But that doesn't mean it's not worth it. Rowan stared at her. Then slowly he pulled her closer. And this time, when he kissed her, it wasn't desperate. It was careful, like he was trying to memorize her. When they pulled apart, Rowan rested his forehead against hers. This is a terrible idea, he murmured. Mara smiled. I know. We're going to regret this. Probably. And I'm going to ruin it. Not if I ruin it first. He laughed. It was a short, surprised sound, but it was real. And Mara felt something loosen in her chest. They stayed like that for a long time, just breathing, just being. And for the first time since she'd arrived at Black Ridge, Mara didn't feel like she was drowning. The next few days were strange. Not bad, just different. Rowan didn't avoid her anymore. He didn't seek her out either. But when they passed each other in the hallways, he'd nod. Sometimes he'd stop, ask how she was. Small things, normal things, things that felt monumental. Mara tried not to read too much into it, but it was hard not to, especially when she'd catch him watching her during dinner, or when he'd linger in the library while she was reading, or when he'd ask her opinion on something, a state business, a book, the weather. Like he actually cared what she thought. Lady Hale noticed. He's different, she said one afternoon. Mara glanced up from her sewing. What do you mean? Rowan. He's different. Lighter, maybe. I don't know. Lady Hale studied her. What did you do? Nothing. Liar. Mara didn't answer. Lady Hale smiled. Whatever it is, keep doing it. But the peace didn't last. It never did. The letter arrived on a Thursday. Mara was in the drawing room with Lady Hale when Mrs. Calloway brought it in. For the master, she said, handing it to Lady Hale. Lady Hale frowned. Who's it from? Mrs. Calloway hesitated. Lord Sterling, okay. The room went cold. Lady Hale opened the letter. Read it. Her expression darkened. What is it? Mara asked. Lady Hale didn't answer. She just stood and walked out. Mara followed. They found Rowan in his study, working through paperwork. Lady Hale slapped the letter down on his desk. "We need to talk." Rowan looked up. "About what?" "This." But she jabbed a finger at the letter. "Nathaniel Sterling is hosting a winter gathering at his estate, and he's invited you." Yes. Rowan's expression didn't change. "I'm not going." "Yes, you are." "Mother." "You are," Lady Hale said firmly, "because if you don't, he'll take it as an insult. And we can't afford to insult the Sterlings right now." Rowan's jaw tightened. "Why not?" "Because they own half the trade routes through the Highlands. Because Nathaniel has connections we need. Because refusing him means making an enemy we don't need." "I don't care." "Well, you should." Lady Hale's voice sharpened. "Like it or not, we're tied to them. And unless you want to lose what little influence we have left, you'll go to this gathering and play the part." Rowan stared at her. Then he looked at the letter. Mara's stomach sank. "How long, he asked. 3 days. "When?" "Next week." Rowan exhaled slowly. "Fine." Lady Hale nodded. "Good." She left. Mara stayed. Rowan looked at her. "Say it." "Say what?" "Whatever you're thinking, Mara crossed her arms. "You don't have to go." "Yes, I do." "No, you don't. You just think you do because your mother told you to." Rowan's eyes narrowed. "It's not that simple." "It is." "Mara, you said you didn't care about influence or connections or any of it. So why does it matter now?" "Because it's not just about me." Rowan stood. "If I refuse, it affects the estate. The people who work here. My mother. I can't just think about myself." "So you're going to spend 3 days with Vivian Sterling pretending you don't hate every second of it." "If I have to." Mara's chest tightened. "She's going to try something." "She won't." "Yes, she will. You know she will." Rowan didn't argue, because they both knew Mara was right. "Then come with me," he said. Mara blinked. "What?" "Come with me. To the gathering." "I can't." "Why not?" "Because I'm a companion. I don't belong at something like that." You belong wherever I say you belong." Mara stared at him. "Rowan, I'm serious." He moved closer. "If I have to go, I want you there. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care what they think. They'll eat me alive. Let them try." Mara's pulse raced. "This is a bad idea." "Probably." Rowan's mouth twitched. "But you said you wanted real. This is real." She wanted to argue, wanted to tell him no, but she didn't. "Fine," she said. "I'll go." The week leading up to the gathering was chaos. Mrs. Calloway insisted Mara needed proper dresses. Lady Hale insisted she needed to know how to navigate high society without embarrassing herself. And Rowan, stubborn, impossible Rowan, insisted she stop worrying. "You'll be fine," he said. "You don't know that." "Yes, I do." But Mara didn't believe him, because she knew what people like the Sterlings were capable of. She'd lived in their world before, had been chewed up and spit out by it, and going back felt like walking into a trap. The night before they left, Mara couldn't sleep. She sat by the window, staring out at the snow, her mind racing. A knock at the door startled her. She opened it. Rowan stood there, still dressed, his hair messy like he'd been running his hands through it. "Can't sleep either?" he asked. "No." He stepped inside, closed the door. They sat on the edge of her bed, side by side, not touching. "Are you scared?" Rowan asked. Mara didn't lie. "Yes." "Of what?" "Of them. Of what they'll say. Of what they'll do." She paused. "Of losing this." Rowan looked at her. "You won't. You don't know that." "I do." He took her hand. "Because I'm not letting you go." Mara's throat tightened. "I mean it," Rowan continued. "Whatever happens at that gathering, whatever Vivian tries, whatever anyone says, it doesn't change this. It doesn't change us. Rowan, Mo, I know I'm terrible at this. I know I've spent the last 4 years convinced I was done. But I'm not done. Not anymore." He squeezed her hand. "You changed that. And I'm not going back." Mara's eyes stung. She leaned into him, her head resting on his shoulder. "I'm terrified," she whispered. "So am I." They sat there in the dark, holding on to each other like it was the only thing keeping them upright. And maybe it was. The Sterling estate was everything Blackridge wasn't. Grand, polished, perfect, the kind of place that screamed wealth and power and everything Mara had spent her life trying to escape. They arrived in the late afternoon, the carriage rolling up a long, tree-lined drive. Mara's stomach twisted. Rowan noticed. "Breathe." "I am breathing." "No, you're panicking." "Same thing." He smiled, just slightly. "You'll be fine, Chi." But when they stepped out of the carriage and saw the crowd gathered on the steps, lords and ladies in expensive coats, servants rushing to take luggage, and at the center of it all, Vivian Sterling in a dress that probably cost more than Mara made in a year, Mara wasn't so sure. Vivian's eyes locked on Rowan immediately. Then they slid to Mara, and her smile sharpened. "Rowan?" she said, gliding down the steps. "You came." "I did. And you brought—" She looked at Mara. "Miss Ellison. What a surprise." Mara forced a smile. "Lady Sterling. Please, call me Vivian." Her eyes glittered. "We're all friends here." Rowan's jaw tightened. Nathaniel appeared behind his sister, grinning. "Rowan, good to see you. Come in, come in. We've got quite the crowd this year." They were swept inside. The house was warm, too warm, filled with people and laughter and the kind of noise Mara had forgotten existed. She felt immediately out of place. Rowan stayed close. His hand found hers briefly, a quick squeeze, before he was pulled into conversations with men she didn't know. Mara stood at the edge of the room trying to be invisible. It didn't work. "Miss Ellison?" Mara turned. A woman stood beside her, older, elegant, cold eyes. "Lady Pembroke," the woman said. "I don't believe we've met." "No, ma'am. You're Lord Hale's, companion?" The way she said it made Mara's skin crawl. "To his mother, yes." "How quaint?" Lady Pembroke's smile didn't reach her eyes. "And tell me, how does a companion end up at a gathering like this?" Mara's pulse spiked. "Lord Hale invited me." "Did he?" It wasn't a question. How generous of him. Another woman joined them, then another, and Mara realized, too late, that she'd just been surrounded. "I heard you used to work for the Ashfords," one of them said. "Yes." "Why did you leave?" Mara's throat tightened. "I wanted a change." "A change?" The woman's eyebrows lifted. "How diplomatic." "I heard," Lady Pembroke said, her voice dropping, "that you left rather suddenly, in the middle of the night, in fact." Mara's blood went cold. "I don't know where you heard that." "Oh, I have my sources." Lady Pembroke leaned in. "Tell me, Miss Ellison, were you dismissed, or did you run?" Mara couldn't breathe. "I think," a voice said behind her, "that's enough." "Rowan." He stepped between Mara and the women, his expression hard. "Lord Hale," Lady Pembroke said smoothly. "We were just getting to know Miss Ellison." "No," Rowan said. "You were interrogating her, and it's done." Lady Pembroke's smile didn't falter. "Of course." She walked away. The other women followed. Mara's hands were shaking. Rowan turned to her. Are you all right?" "I'm fine." "You're not." "I said I'm fine." His jaw tightened. "Mara, I need air." She pushed past him and walked out. She found a balcony at the back of the house, overlooking a frozen garden. The cold air hit her like a slap, but she welcomed it. She gripped the railing and tried to breathe. Footsteps behind her. "I told you this was a bad idea," Mara said without turning. "I know." Rowan stepped beside her. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Mara said, "They know?" "Know what?" "About London, about why I left." She looked at him. "Someone told them." Rowan's expression darkened. "Who?" "I don't know, but they know, and they're going to use it. Let them try." "Rowan, I don't care what they know." He turned to face her. "I don't care what they say. It doesn't change anything." "It changes everything." "No, it doesn't." Mara's eyes stung. "You don't understand." "Then tell me." She wanted to. But before she could, the balcony door opened. Vivian stepped out. Am I interrupting? She asked sweetly. Rowan's jaw clenched. Yes. Boy. Oh. Vivian's smile widened. Well, I'll be quick then. Rowan, your mother sent a message. She's asking for you. She can wait. She said it was urgent. Rowan hesitated. Vivian's eyes flicked to Mara. I'll keep Miss Ellison company while you're gone. Every instinct in Mara's body screamed no, but Rowan was already moving. I'll be right back, he said to Mara, and then he was gone, leaving Mara alone, with Vivian. The silence stretched. Then Vivian said, You're not very good at this, are you? Mara kept her eyes on the garden. At what? Playing the game. I'm not playing anything. Oh, but you are. Vivian stepped closer. You're playing the role of the innocent girl who stumbled into something she doesn't understand, and you're hoping Rowan will protect you. Mara's hands tightened on the railing. I don't need protection. Yes, you do. Vivian's voice dropped. Because I know who you are, Miss Ellison. I know what you did in London. I know why you ran. And I know exactly how to make sure everyone else knows too. Mara's heart stopped. So here's what's going to happen, Vivian continued. You're going to leave, tonight. You're going to go back to Blackridge, pack your things, and disappear. And in return, I'll keep your little secret. Mara turned to face her. And if I don't? Vivian smiled. Then I'll destroy you. The words hung in the frozen air between them, and Mara realized, too late, that she'd just lost. Mara stared at Vivian Sterling and felt something inside her go very, very still. Not panic, not fear, something colder. No, she said. Vivian blinked. Excuse me? I said no. Mara's voice was steady, calm. I'm not leaving. Vivian's smile faltered, just for a second. You don't have a choice. Yes, I do. Mara stepped closer. And I'm choosing to stay. Then you're a fool. Maybe. Mara held her gaze. But I'm not a coward and I'm done running. Vivian's expression hardened. You have no idea what I'm capable of. And you have no idea what I've survived. Mara's voice dropped. So go ahead. Tell everyone whatever you think you know. Spread your rumors. Destroy my reputation. Do your worst. You think Rowan will stand by you when he finds out the truth? I think he's not as shallow as you are. Vivian's eyes flashed. Careful, Miss Ellison. Or what? Mara crossed her arms. You'll ruin me? You already promised to do that, so what else do you have? For a moment, Vivian said nothing. Then she laughed. It was a sharp, brittle sound. You're braver than I thought, she said. Stupider, too. Probably. Vivian studied her. He won't choose you. You know that, don't you? When it comes down to it, when he has to decide between you and everything else, he'll choose the estate, the legacy, the future that doesn't include some desperate girl from London with a past she can't escape. The words hit harder than Mara expected, but she didn't flinch. If that's true, she said quietly, then I'll leave. But it'll be my choice, not yours. Vivian's jaw tightened. Then she turned and walked back inside. Mara stood there, her heart hammering, her hands shaking. She'd just declared war, and she had no idea if she could win. Rowan found her 10 minutes later, still on the balcony, her knuckles white from gripping the railing. What did she say to you? Mara looked at him. It doesn't matter. Yes, it does. Rowan, what did she say? Mara exhaled slowly. She threatened me. Told me to leave or she'd ruin me. Rowan's expression went dark. She what? It's fine. It's not fine. I handled it. How? I told her no. Rowan stared at her. You told Vivian Sterling no. Yes. Do you have any idea what she's going to do now? Probably something terrible. Mara turned to face him fully. But I don't care. I'm not leaving. Not unless you tell me to. While Rowan was silent for a long moment. Then he said, I'm not telling you to leave. Even if she tells everyone about London? I don't care about London. You don't know what happened. Then tell me. Mara's throat tightened. She'd spent months, years bearing this, refusing to think about it, refusing to let it touch her. But standing there, looking at Rowan, she realized something. She was tired of carrying it alone. I worked for a man, she said quietly. Lord Ashford. He was kind at first, offered me a position as a governess, good pay, decent conditions. I thought I was lucky. Rowan didn't move. But he had a son, Mara continued. Thomas. He was 23, entitled, used to getting what he wanted, and he decided he wanted me. Rowan's hands clenched. I said no, over and over, but he didn't care. He'd corner me, touch me, make comments when no one else was around. And when I told his father, when I finally worked up the courage, Lord Ashford didn't believe me. Mara said, he said I was lying, that I was trying to trap his son, that I was lucky he didn't have me arrested. Her voice cracked. So I left. In the middle of the night, took what little I had and ran, and I've been running ever since. Silence. Rowan stepped closer. I'm going to kill him. Mara almost laughed. Which one? Both of them. Rowan. I mean it. His voice was low, dangerous. No one touches you. No one threatens you. And if Vivian thinks she can use this against you, she's wrong. Mara's eyes stung. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. She'll tell everyone. They'll believe her, and I'll what? Rowan's hands cupped her face. I'll stand by you. That's what I'll do. Because I don't care what they think. I don't care what they say. All I care about is you. Mara couldn't breathe. You're not alone anymore, Rowan said. Do you understand that? You're not running. You're not hiding. You're here with me, and I'm not letting anyone take that away. A tear slipped down her cheek. Rowan wiped it away with his thumb. We're going back inside, he said, and we're going to finish this gathering, together. And if Vivian tries anything, she'll regret it. Rowan, trust me. Mara looked at him, and she did. They walked back inside together. The gathering was in full swing now. Music played, people danced, conversations hummed. Vivian stood near the fireplace, surrounded by her usual circle of admirers. She saw them enter. Her eyes locked on Mara, and she smiled. Rowan's hand found Mara's. Stay close. They moved through the room. Rowan greeted people when necessary, kept conversation short, never let go of Mara's hand. And people noticed. Mara felt their eyes, heard the whispers. But Rowan didn't care. He introduced her. Not as his mother's companion, not as a servant. As Mara. Just Mara. And the way he said her name, like it mattered, like she mattered, made something shift in the room. Lady Pembroke approached them, her expression tight. Lord Hale, I wasn't aware you and Miss Ellison were close. We are, Rowan said simply. I see. Her eyes flicked to Mara. How unexpected. Is it? Lady Pembroke's smile didn't reach her eyes. Well, I'm sure it will provide plenty of conversation. I'm sure it will. She walked away. Mara's pulse raced. That was a mistake. No, Rowan said. It was a statement. They're going to tear me apart. Let them try. But Mara knew it wasn't that simple, because an hour later, when she excused herself to find the washroom, she overheard them. 3 women, standing in a side hallway, voices low but clear. Did you see the way he looks at her? It's embarrassing. She's a nobody. Vivian said she's hiding something from London. I heard she was dismissed for improper conduct. Mara's stomach dropped. Well, whatever it is, it won't last. Rowan's too smart to actually marry someone like that. Unless she's trapped him. Laughter. Mara pressed her back against the wall, her breath coming short. They didn't know she was there, and for a moment she considered walking away, letting them talk, letting them think whatever they wanted. But then she remembered what Rowan had said. You're not alone anymore. So she stepped around the corner. All 3 women froze. Miss Ellison, one of them said, her face going pale. I know what you were doing. Mara's voice was calm, cold. And I don't care. You were gossiping about me, About Rowan, about things you know nothing about. Mara stepped closer. So let me make this very clear. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not hiding. And I'm not ashamed of who I am or where I came from. So if you have something to say to me, say it to my face. Otherwise, keep my name out of your mouth. The women stared at her. Then, one by one, they looked away. Mara turned and walked back to the main hall. Her hands were shaking, but she'd done it. She'd stood her ground. Rowan was waiting for her near the entrance to the ballroom. Where were you? Handling something. His eyes narrowed. What happened? Nothing I couldn't manage. He studied her face. Then he smiled, just slightly. You're terrifying when you want to be. Good. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Dinner was served, more conversations, more whispers. But Mara didn't hide. She sat beside Rowan, answered questions when asked, held her head high, and slowly, painfully slowly, she felt the room shift. Not everyone accepted her, but some did. A few kind words here, a genuine smile there, small victories, but they mattered. Vivian, however, didn't give up. She cornered Mara again after dinner in the drawing room while Rowan was occupied with Nathaniel. You're making this harder than it needs to be, Vivian said. Mara didn't look at her. I'm not making anything hard. I'm just existing. You're clinging to something that isn't yours. Rowan isn't yours either. Vivian's expression hardened. He will be, eventually, when he gets tired of whatever this is. You really believe that? I know it. Vivian stepped closer. Because I know him. I've known him for years, and I know what he needs, what his family needs, and it's not you. Mara finally looked at her. If you're so sure, why are you trying so hard to get rid of me? Vivian's jaw tightened. Because, Mara continued, if you really believed he'd choose you, you wouldn't be here, threatening me, trying to scare me off. You'd just wait. I'm being kind, giving you a way out before this gets ugly. No. Mara's voice was steady. You're scared, because for the first time in your life, someone said no to you, and you don't know how to handle it. Vivian's eyes flashed. You're going to regret this. Maybe. Mara crossed her arms. But at least I'll have tried. Vivian stared at her for a long moment. Then she turned and walked away. And Mara stood there, her heart pounding, wondering how much longer she could keep this up. That night, back in their rooms, Rowan found her sitting by the window. You've been quiet, he said. I'm tired. No, you're thinking. Mara looked at him. Is there a difference? He sat beside her. What's wrong? Nothing. Mara, she sighed. I don't know how to do this. Do what? Be here, with you, in this world. She gestured vaguely. I don't fit. I never will. You fit with me. That's not enough. Yes, it is. Rowan, listen to me. He turned her to face him. I don't care about their world. I don't care about their rules or their opinions or their expectations. All I care about is you. And if they can't accept that, then they can go to hell. Mara's throat tightened. It's not that simple. Why not? Because you have responsibilities, a legacy, an estate to run. You can't just watch me. His voice was firm. I've spent 4 years doing what everyone expected, being what everyone needed, and it nearly killed me. I'm not doing that again, not for them, not for anyone. What are you saying? I'm saying I choose you. He took her hands. I don't care if it's messy. I don't care if it's difficult. I don't care if it ruins everything. I choose you. Mara's eyes filled with tears. And if you'll have me, Rowan continued, his voice rough, I want you to stay. Not as my mother's companion, not as someone hiding in the background, but as mine. Openly, honestly, completely. Rowan, marry me. The words hung in the air. Mara stared at him. What? Marry me, he said again. I know it's fast. I know it's insane. But I don't care. I want this. I want you. And I'm tired of pretending I don't. Mara couldn't breathe. You don't have to answer now, Rowan said quickly. You can think about it. Take all the time you need. I needed you to know. that this is real, that I'm serious, that I'm not going anywhere. Mara's hands shook in his. Say something, he said. She opened her mouth, then closed it, because she didn't have words. So she kissed him instead, hard, desperate, real, and when they pulled apart, she whispered, yes. Rowan froze. Yes? Yes. She laughed through her tears. I'll marry you. He stared at her like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. Then he kissed her again. And Mara felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. The next morning, Rowan made the announcement, not quietly, not privately, at breakfast, in front of everyone. Nathaniel choked on his tea. Vivienne went pale. Lady Pembroke's fork clattered to her plate, and Rowan just sat there, his hand wrapped around Mara's, looking like he'd just won a war. You're joking, Vivienne said finally. I'm not. Rowan, this is final. His voice was calm, certain. Mara and I are engaged. The wedding will be in the spring. You're all welcome to attend. Or not. I don't particularly care. Silence. Then Nathaniel cleared his throat. Well, congratulations. It sounded forced, but it was something. Vivienne stood abruptly. Excuse me. She left. Rowan didn't watch her go. He just looked at Mara. You all right? She nodded. I think so. Good. The rest of breakfast was awkward. People whispered, stared. A few offered stiff congratulations. But Mara didn't care, because when they left the Sterling estate later that day, when the carriage rolled away and the house disappeared behind them, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Free. They arrived back at Blackridge as the sun was setting. Lady Hale was waiting in the drawing room. She looked at them. Well? We're engaged, Rowan said. Lady Hale didn't look surprised. About time. Mara blinked. You're not upset? Why would I be upset? Because I'm a woman my son loves. Lady Hale's voice softened. That's all I've ever wanted for him. Mara's eyes stung. Lady Hale stood and crossed to her. Welcome to the family, girl. And she pulled Mara into a hug. It was awkward, stiff, but it was real. The next few weeks were chaos. Word spread fast. Letters arrived daily, some congratulatory, some less so. Vivienne sent a note, short, cold. You won this round. Don't get comfortable. Mara burned it. But not everyone was hostile. A few families reached out, offered support, genuine kindness. And slowly, painfully, Mara began to believe that maybe, just maybe, this could work. Rowan was different too. Lighter. Happier. He smiled more. Laughed more. And at night, when they sat together by the fire, he'd hold her hand and talk about the future. Not the estate. Not the legacy. Just them. I want to travel, he said one night, after the wedding, see things I've never seen, take you places you've never been. Mara smiled. Where? Everywhere. That's not very specific. I don't care where we go. He looked at her. As long as I'm with you. Mara's chest tightened. You're getting sentimental. I know. He grinned. It's your fault. She laughed. And for the first time in her life, Mara felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. But 3 days before the wedding, everything changed. A letter arrived, not from Vivienne, from London. Mara recognized the handwriting immediately. Her hand shook as she opened it. Miss Ellison, I trust this letter finds you well. I've recently learned of your engagement to Lord Hale. Congratulations. However, I feel it's my duty to inform him of certain details regarding your time in my employ. Details I'm sure you'd prefer remain private. I'll be in the Highlands next week. We should talk. Yours, Lord Ashford. Mara's blood ran cold. Rowan found her in the library, the letter clutched in her hand. What's wrong? She handed it to him. He read it. His expression darkened. He's coming here, Mara said. He's going to tell you everything. Twist it. Make it sound like I don't care what he says. Rowan, I don't care. He crumpled the letter. He's a coward trying to save face. And I'm not giving him the satisfaction. What if he ruins everything? He won't. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Rowan pulled her close. Because I know you. And I know the truth. And nothing he says will change that. Mamotsoy. Mara wanted to believe him, but fear clawed at her chest. What if? No. Rowan's voice was firm. No what ifs. We face this together, like everything else. Mara looked up at him, and she saw it. The man who'd been broken. The man who'd sworn he'd never love again, standing there, whole, real, choosing her. Together, she whispered. Together. And when Lord Ashford arrived a week later, Rowan was ready. He met him at the door, didn't let him inside. Whatever you came here to say, Rowan said, his voice cold, you can leave now. Ashford raised an eyebrow. I just wanted to warn you. I know what you did. Mara told me everything. And if you ever come near her again, I'll ruin you. Completely. Do you understand? Ashford's expression faltered. I have connections too, Rowan continued. People who would be very interested to hear about how you treat the women in your employ. So unless you want your reputation destroyed, I suggest you leave. Now. Ashford stared at him. Then he turned and left. Rowan watched the carriage disappear down the drive. Then he walked back inside. Mara was waiting in the hallway. Is it over? She asked. It's over. She exhaled slowly. Just like that? Just like that. Mara's legs gave out. Rowan caught her, and they stood there, holding each other, as the weight of everything finally lifted. 2 days later, they were married. It was a small ceremony, just family, a few friends. No grand affair, no spectacle, just them. Standing in the chapel at Blackridge, promising each other forever. And when Rowan kissed her, Mara felt something she'd never felt before. Certainty. That night, as they lay together in the dark, Rowan whispered, I love you. Mara's breath caught. I know I haven't said it, he continued, but I do. I love you, more than I thought I could love anything. Mara turned to face him. I love you too. He smiled, and in that moment Mara knew. They'd made it, against everything, against everyone. They'd made it. Spring came slowly to Blackridge. The snow melted in patches, revealing brown grass and mud. The wind lost its edge. And one morning, Mara woke to the sound of birds. She lay there for a moment, listening. Rowan was already awake, sitting by the window, watching the sunrise. You're up early, she said. He glanced back at her. Couldn't sleep. Why not? Too much on my mind. Mara sat up, pulling the blanket around her shoulders. What kind of things? Rowan smiled. Good things. For once. She crossed to him, settling into his lap. He wrapped his arms around her, and they sat there in silence, watching the light spread across the moors. I keep thinking about the first time I saw you, Rowan said quietly. In the hallway. You looked so terrified, lost. He kissed her temple, like you were holding yourself together by sheer will. I was. I know. His arms tightened around her. I recognized it, because I was doing the same thing. Mara leaned back against him. We were a mess. We still are. But a different kind of mess. A better kind. She smiled. They stayed like that until the sun was fully up. Then Rowan sighed. I have to go into the village today, estate business. Want company? He looked surprised. You want to come? Why wouldn't I? Because the village... He hesitated. They talk, and not all of it is kind. Mara stood. Then let them talk. I'm not hiding anymore. Rowan studied her face. Then he nodded. All right. They rode into the village together an hour later. It was a small place, one main street, a handful of shops, a church at the far end. The kind of place where everyone knew everyone, and strangers were noticed immediately. Mara had been here once before, weeks ago, with Mrs. Calloway. But then she'd been invisible, just another servant. Now, riding beside Rowan, wearing a proper coat and a ring on her finger, she was anything but. People stopped to stare. Some nodded, some whispered, a few smiled. Rowan ignored all of it. He dismounted, helped Mara down, and walked straight to the steward's office. Mara followed. Inside, the steward, a graying man named Mr. Brennan, looked up from his desk. "Lord Hale." He stood. Then his eyes landed on Mara. And Lady Hale. Mara's stomach flipped. Lady Hale. She hadn't gotten used to that yet. "Mr. Brennan," Rowan said, "I need the ledgers from last quarter, and the correspondence from the tenants." "Of course." Brennan moved to a cabinet, pulling out a stack of papers. "There have been some complaints about the drainage in the East Fields, and the Millers are behind on rent again." Rowan nodded. "I'll handle it." They spent the next hour going through paperwork. Mara sat quietly, watching Rowan work. He was good at this. Patient. Fair. He listened when Brennan talked about problems, asked questions, made notes. Nothing like the cold, closed-off man she'd met months ago. When they finished, Brennan cleared his throat. "If I may, my lord." Rowan looked up. "Yes?" "The tenants?" "They've been asking. About Lady Hale." He glanced at Mara. "They'd like to meet her, properly." Mara's pulse quickened. Rowan looked at her. "Do you want to?" She wanted to say no, wanted to hide, but she thought about what she'd told him that morning. "I'm not hiding anymore." "Yes," she said. "I do." Brennan's expression softened. "There's a gathering this afternoon. At the church. Nothing formal, just the community. If you'd like to stop by." Rowan nodded. "We'll be there." They left the office and walked down the main street. People watched, whispered, but this time a few approached. An older woman stopped them near the bakery. "Lord Hale, Lady Hale." She curtsied awkwardly. "I just wanted to say congratulations. My husband and I were so pleased to hear the news." Mara smiled. "Thank you. Will you be staying at Blackridge or traveling?" "Staying," Rowan said. "This is home." The woman beamed. "Good. The estate needs that. Needs family again." She walked away. Another woman approached. Then a man. Then a young couple with a baby. Each one offering congratulations, asking questions. Genuine, kind. Not everyone, of course. Mara saw the ones who turned away, who whispered behind their hands, who looked at her like she didn't belong. But for the first time, they were the minority. That afternoon, they went to the church. It wasn't a formal event, just tables set up outside. Food, conversation. Children running around. The whole village seemed to be there. Mara's stomach twisted as they approached. But Rowan took her hand. "Breathe." "I am." "No, you're panicking." "Same thing." He smiled. "You'll be fine." And he was right. Because the moment they arrived, people came over, introduced themselves, asked about the wedding, about Blackridge, about Mara. She answered as best she could, tried not to stumble over her words, tried to remember names, and slowly, the tension in her chest eased. These weren't the lords and ladies from the Sterling estate. These were farmers, shopkeepers, families just trying to survive. People like her. An older man approached, his cap in his hands. "Lady Hale, I'm Tom Fletcher. I work the North Fields." "It's nice to meet you, Mr. Fletcher." "I just wanted to say—" He hesitated. "We're glad you're here. The estate's been quiet for a long time. It's good to see it coming back to life." Mara's throat tightened. "Thank you." "Ichiwokot. And if you ever need anything, if there's anything we can do, you just let us know." She nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Fletcher nodded and walked away. Rowan leaned in. "See, not so bad. Don't gloat?" "I'm not gloating." "You are." He kissed her cheek. "Maybe a little." The afternoon passed in a blur. More conversations, more faces, more names Mara tried desperately to remember. And then, near the end, a woman approached. She was younger, thin, pale, a baby on her hip. "Lady Hale?" Mara turned. "Yes? I'm Anna Miller. My husband and I. We're the ones behind on rent." Mara's stomach dropped. "Oh." Anna's eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry." "We've been trying, but the baby's been sick, and the crops didn't do well last season. And it's all right," Mara said quickly. "It's not. We know it's not, but we're trying. I promise we're trying." Mara looked at Rowan. He stepped forward. "Mrs. Miller, how much do you owe?" "£15. "And how much can you pay right now?" Anna swallowed. 5. Maybe 6. Rowan nodded. Pay what you can. We'll extend the deadline for the rest. Anna stared at him. You will? Yes. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Thank you. Thank you so much. She hurried away. Mara looked at Rowan. That was kind. It was practical. If they lose their home, they can't work the land, and we need the land worked. Still, he shrugged. Besides, you would have told me to do it anyway. She smiled. Probably. They stayed until sunset. When they finally rode back to Black Ridge, Mara felt lighter than she had in months. They liked you, Rowan said. Some of them. Most of them. Maybe. Definitely. He glanced at her. You're good at this. At what? Being Lady Hale. Mara laughed. I have no idea what I'm doing. Neither did I. Still don't, most of the time. He reached over and took her hand. But we'll figure it out. Together? Together. But not everyone was happy. A week later, a letter arrived. From Vivian. Mara found it on the hall table, addressed to Rowan. She didn't open it. But when Rowan came home, she handed it to him. It's from her, she said. Rowan's jaw tightened. He tore it open, read it, then crumpled it and threw it into the fire. What did it say? Mara asked. Nothing important. Rowan. She's upset. She's lashing out. She'll get over it. He crossed to Mara. Or she won't. Either way, I don't care. But Mara cared, because 2 days later another letter arrived. Not from Vivian. From Lady Pembroke. Then another. From Lord Stirling. And another. And another. All of them variations of the same thing. You've made a mistake. She's not suitable. This will ruin you. Mara read them all, her hands shaking. Rowan found her in the library, surrounded by letters. What are you doing? He asked. Reading. Stop. I can't. Mara? They're right. Her voice cracked. I'm ruining you, your reputation, your standing, everything. No, you're not. Yes, I am. She gestured at the letters. Look at this. They all think, I don't care what they think. But I do. Mara stood. Because you have to live in this world. And if they turn on you, if they cut you off, what then? Then we survive, like we always do. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. Rowan crossed to her. Listen to me. These people, these families, they've spent their entire lives clinging to power, to status, to control, and they hate anyone who threatens that. Anyone who chooses differently, anyone who refuses to play their game. So what do? We stop playing. Mara stared at him. What? We stop caring about their approval, their acceptance, their rules. He took her hands. We build our own life, here, at Black Ridge, with the people who actually matter, the tenants, the village, the ones who don't care where you came from or who your family is, the ones who care about what you do, who you are, and if we lose everything else, then we lose it. His voice was firm. But we'll still have each other, and that's enough. Mara's eyes filled with tears. I know you're scared, Rowan said. I am too, but I'm not going back. I'm not living that life again, and I'm not letting them take this from us. Mara nodded slowly. Okay. Okay? Okay. She squeezed his hands. We stopped playing. Rowan smiled. Then he kissed her. And when he pulled back, he said, We're going to be fine. You don't know that. Yes, I do. And for the first time, Mara believed him. The letters kept coming, but they stopped reading them, stopped responding, stopped caring. Instead, they focused on Black Ridge. Rowan worked with the tenants, fixed fences, improved drainage, listened to complaints, and found solutions. Mara worked with the village, helped Anna Miller with the baby, organized a small school for the children, started learning the names, the faces, the stories, and slowly the estate came back to life. People stopped whispering, started smiling instead, started treating Mara like she belonged. Because she did. One afternoon, 3 months after the wedding, Lady Hale called Mara to her room. Sit, she said. Mara obeyed. Lady Hale studied her for a long moment. You've changed. Have I? Yes, you're stronger, surer. She paused. Happier. Mara smiled. I am. Good. Lady Hale's voice softened. I was wrong about you. Mara blinked. What? When you first arrived, I thought you'd be trouble. Thought you'd break my son's heart. Or he'd break yours. She shook her head. But I was wrong. You saved him. Mara's throat tightened. He saved me too. I know. Lady Hale reached out and took her hand. You're good for each other, and you're good for this place. Don't ever doubt that. Mara's eyes stung. Thank you. Lady Hale squeezed her hand. Then she let go. Now get out of here. I'm tired. Mara left, but the words stayed with her. You're good for this place. That night, lying beside Rowan, Mara whispered, I think I'm happy. Rowan turned to look at her. You think? I know. She smiled. I'm happy. He pulled her closer. Good, because I am too. They lay there in the dark, listening to the wind outside, and Mara felt something she'd never felt before. Home. But peace never lasts. A month later, a carriage arrived at Blackridge, unannounced, unexpected. Mara was in the garden when Mrs. Calloway found her. There's someone here to see you. Mara frowned. Who? She wouldn't say, just asked for Lady Hale. Mara's stomach twisted. Where is she? In the drawing room. Mara walked inside, her pulse racing. And when she opened the door, she froze. Because sitting by the fire, dressed in black, was Vivian Sterling. Hello, Mara, she said. Mara's hands clenched. What are you doing here? I came to talk. We have nothing to talk about. I think we do. Vivian stood. I came to apologize. Mara stared at her. What? I was wrong. About you. About Rowan. About everything. Vivian's voice was quiet. Almost. Broken. And I wanted you to know that. Mara didn't move. Why now? Because I spent the last few months trying to destroy you, trying to turn people against you, and it didn't work. Vivian's eyes were red. Because you're better than I ever gave you credit for. And he loves you in a way he never loved me. Or anyone else. Mara's throat tightened. I was jealous, Vivian continued, and angry, and I lashed out. And I'm sorry. Mara studied her face, looking for the lie, the manipulation. But all she saw was exhaustion. I don't expect you to forgive me, Vivian said. I just wanted you to know that you won, fair and square, and I'm done fighting. Silence. Then Mara said, I never wanted to fight you. I know. Vivian's voice cracked. But I made you anyway. Mara hesitated. Then she said, Thank you for coming. Vivian nodded. Take care of him. He deserves it. I will. Vivian turned to leave. But at the door she stopped. For what it's worth, you're good for him. Better than I ever could have been. Then she left. Mara stood there, her heart pounding. Rowan found her a few minutes later. Mrs. Calloway said Vivian was here. She was. What did she want? To apologize. Rowan's eyebrows lifted. And I think she meant it. He studied her face. Are you all right? I think so. Mara exhaled slowly. It's just strange. I spent so long being afraid of her, and now she's just another person. Yeah. Rowan pulled her close. It's over. All of it. Mara leaned into him. I hope so. It is. He kissed the top of her head. We won. And Mara finally believed it. Time passed. Spring turned to summer, then fall, then winter again. But this time the cold didn't feel suffocating. It felt peaceful. Mara stood in the library one afternoon, a year after the wedding, staring out at the snow-covered moors. Rowan came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. What are you thinking about? He asked. Everything. She turned to face him. How different things are now. Good different? The best different. He smiled. I love you. I love you too. They stood there for a moment. Then Mara said, I'm pregnant. Rowan froze. What? I'm pregnant. She took his hand and placed it on her stomach. We're going to have a baby. Rowan stared at her. Then his eyes filled with tears. Are you sure? Yes, he laughed. Then he kissed her, hard, desperate, happy. We're having a baby, he said. We are. I'm going to be a father. You are. He laughed again. Then he picked her up and spun her around. Mara shrieked, Rowan, put me down. No. Rowan. He set her down, but he didn't let go. This is... He shook his head. I can't believe this. Believe it. He pulled her close. I never thought I'd have this. Any of this. A wife. A family. A life that actually feels worth living. Mara's chest tightened. You deserve it. We deserve it. He rested his forehead against hers. Both of us. And Mara knew he was right. The baby came in the spring, a girl, tiny, perfect, loud. Mara held her for the first time and felt something crack open inside her. Love. Pure. Overwhelming. Terrifying. Rowan sat beside her, staring at the baby like he couldn't quite believe she was real. She's beautiful, he whispered. She is. What should we name her? Mara thought for a moment. Then she said, Eleanor. Rowan's breath caught. After your wife, Mara said. The woman who made you who you are. The woman who taught you how to love. Rowan's eyes filled with tears. Are you sure? Yes. He kissed her. Thank you. And they sat there, the three of them, in the quiet room, as the sun rose outside. Years passed. Eleanor grew, learned to walk, to talk, to run through the halls of Blackridge like she owned the place, which, technically, she did. Mara and Rowan had 2 more children, a boy, then another girl. The house filled with noise, with laughter, with life, and the estate thrived. The tenants were happy. The village grew. Blackridge became a place people wanted to be, not because it was grand, but because it was home. Lady Hale lived long enough to see all 3 grandchildren. She died peacefully one winter night in her sleep, a smile on her face. Mara cried for days, but she also felt grateful because Lady Hale had given her something she'd never had before, a mother. One evening, years later, Mara and Rowan sat on the balcony overlooking the moors. The children were asleep. The house was quiet. Do you ever think about that first winter? Rowan asked. Mara smiled. All the time. Do you regret it? Any of it? No. She took his hand. Not a single moment. Even the hard parts? Especially the hard parts. She looked at him. Because they led us here. Rowan squeezed her hand. I was so sure I was done, that I'd never feel anything again. And then you showed up. And everything changed. You changed too. Because of you. Because of us. They sat in silence for a while. Then Rowan said, I'm glad you stayed. But Mara leaned her head on his shoulder. So am I. The wind blew across the moors, cold and sharp. But inside Blackridge, warmth filled every room. And Mara Ellison, no, Mara Hale, knew with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she belonged. She'd survived the winter and found her spring. Not by being perfect, not by being fearless, but by choosing to stay, by choosing to fight, by choosing love. And in the end, that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.